Good morning. Good morning out there. Happy hump day. How's it going? It's Wednesday, right? Halfway through the rainy week. I am Luke. I'm one of the community organizers, as well as Zach, who's not here. Oh, there's Zach. Look, perfect timing. And Anna, who's somewhere around here, Courtney, and Kyle. If you are not familiar with 1 Million Cups, it is a community organization where we give two presenters the opportunity to talk about their company for 6 minutes, and then we open it up to the expert panel, which leads me to introduce this amazing expert panel we have today.
Thank you. It's not my first time, Courtney. My name is Jeff Kopakin. I'm part of the awesome expert panel this morning. I am a business attorney in town with my own firm. I work with everything from startup to about $20 million. So really just kind of general counsel working with them. So enjoy coming down here and having the opportunity to talk with the presenters. But I'd love to meet you afterwards. So come up and say hello.
My name is Andy Talbert, and I'm the other part of the expert panel. Jeff Kopakin is our attorney, so he keeps me out of jail. He does a very good job at that so far, at least. I think I'm probably most well known for Snow & Company. I have a few other ventures in town, and we also do some commercial real estate development as well, but I kind of have a generalist background on the entrepreneur side. Spent most of my corporate career at Hallmark Cards here in town, and then kind of 4 or 5 years ago went out on my own to build companies. So anyway, happy to be here.
Awesome, thank you. So after the presenters present, we open it up to the expert panel, and then we open it up to you guys. So just raise your hand, we'll come over to you with a microphone. For those of you that downloaded the 1 Million Cups app today, please do not tweet about it, as we are launching it at a later date. And that leads me to introducing my first presenter, rightfully Sown's Jennifer Lapka. Let's hear it for her.
Good morning, and everyone, thank you so much for coming. There are so many of you. I'm nervous, I'll be honest, but I'm so glad you're here. Garment making is an ancient art, and it always has been ever since humans existed, and it always will be. Today, it's a $1.2 trillion international business, and $250 billion of that takes place in America. Did you know that in the last century, 95% of apparel and footwear that Americans wore were made in America? 95%. Kansas City at that time was an epicenter of garment design and manufacturing. We assert, rightfully Sown asserts, that we can be at the forefront of that movement again. What seemingly died can come alive again. Who am I, and why should you believe me? Well, you can do a little staring contest with Mammoth Me, and you can read about my credentials, but essentially, I'm nothing with a capital N without our team. You can see that we are young, we are diverse in many ways, and I think most importantly, we are motivated by helping other people. Last spring, we underwent Kauffman Fast Track, which any entrepreneur, if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, you must do that program. We took a feasibility study, and in the Kansas City market, we found that at-risk women living in social service agencies accommodation, they need to learn a meaningful trade that pays a living wage to emerge from a systemic situation, job placement assistance, and employers that offer a respectful environment. In response, we have hired Pamela Lucas, Director of Instruction and Curricula, to help us develop and lead our Seamstress Training Certification Program. We're fundraising for that right now, and we're going to launch it in summer of 2017. We also discovered that there are nearly 170 designers in Kansas City, ages high school to college to established. We've been bleeding them to the coast for the last 30 years, and so in order for them to stay here, they need infrastructure. They need a space to learn and work. They need access to state-of-the-art fashion technology, local production, and professional development opportunities. In response to that, we've created and launched our pilot program in January of 2016, a fashion designer residency opportunity. Of the 167 designers in the community, 25 applied, and we had an external panel of 11 professionals choose 5. Men and women were invited to participate. 5 women won. They'll be in a 2-year residency. This is Amy Beck. That's her product, handbags. Heidi Herman, a women's wear designer. Whitney Manny, streetwear designer. Sarah Nelson, does that dress look familiar? It's mine. And I bought it off the runway of a fashion show that I used to produce. And I can't tell you how proud I am to wear a Sarah Nelson. This is Kate Nichols. She's a custom gown designer. We also discovered that local existing sewn product manufacturers that are here in Kansas City, they need things too. They need a skilled labor with experience on industrial sewing machines, not home sewing machines. There's a big difference. A strong professional network in order to share information and broker better prices for employee insurance, supplies, and shipping. In response to that, I already talked about the Seamstress Training Certification Program we're launching in 2017. We also offer an annual fabric trade show, networking opportunities, and really important, we're excited to launch an industry directory in October of this year. We discovered macro and humanity needs as well. Every time we say yes to a $5 t-shirt, a $30 dress, and I say we because we have all done it, we say yes to production in countries that have absolutely no regulations on environmental standards, labor laws, and factory safety. That picture right here, 1,100 people died in 2013 in Bangladesh, manufacturing clothing for JCPenney and Walmart and many others. Fashion is not frivolous. If we together can push back that Wizard of Oz curtain, we'll discover that fashion is jobs, livelihoods, taxes, revenue, part of the economy and the identity of a city. You can see how many professions are in this circle and ancillary businesses that are involved as well. Customers, who are our customers? Wall Street Journal just this week released that J.Crew, Nordstrom's, Macy's, and others, they're experiencing plummeting sales. Why is that? Consumers in America, we want high quality again. We want bespoke clothing. Also, the American Apparel Footwear Association marked last year that for the first time in a very, very long time, Americans are buying less garments in a year and they are paying more per piece. Both of those things are really important to what we're trying to do in Kansas City. I'm supposed to talk about competitors, and this is from our partner page on our website. You'll see we have a lot of collaborators, and that's how we view our competitors. We came into the market not trying to recreate, not trying to eat up. We are like a sponge. We kind of fill in the spaces, and we believe all ships rise. We have our 1-year anniversary coming up tomorrow. We've orchestrated all of our programs through partnerships with existing businesses and organizations. We don't have a building yet. We could exist that way forever if we wanted. I'm also supposed to talk about our problems. I personally do not believe that there are problems. I believe that there are obstacles. I believe that there are challenges, and challenges make us stronger. The Kansas City community has been incredibly supportive of Rightfully Sewn since we launched a year ago tomorrow. The only problem or challenge, obstacle, however you want to see, is time. We just need time to orchestrate what we're trying to do. Thank you for your attention. Let the questions begin.
All right, we're going to open it up to our expert panel first, and then we'll come to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Great presentation, and I have to commend you on the ambition of the vision.
Thank you.
I think we all were able to kind of capture it and understand it pretty quickly.
Thank you.
I think manufacturing is a huge conversation, obviously, in terms of economics in the United States and things like that. I guess the question I would have is you speak to maybe a little bit more on the part of the supply chain you really want to capture here in Kansas City or kind of bring back to Kansas City, because it seems like when we talk about jobs and we talk about textiles or things like that, there's some of those low-end jobs that we maybe don't necessarily want, or is it really focused on a certain part of the supply chain, or really integrating the entire supply chain and owning it?
We want it all. Fashion starts with farmers, and we are in the middle of farmers. So our long-range vision, 10 to 20 years, can we work with farmers in Kansas and Missouri to raise llamas, more sheep, cotton, non-narcotic hemp, flax, and other things to make textiles? We bring it into the city. We have mills, and we have weavers. We put it into fabric, and then we have designers. We have pattern makers, cutters, seamstresses, shippers, retailers. We're selling it here. We're selling it online. We have stylists. And there's also, what's really interesting, I've been watching a startup in Seattle called Evernew, and their equipment will take old t-shirts and virginal cotton, and they're partnering with Levi's. They've made Levi's 511 jeans. That's a huge piece of the puzzle. The fashion industry is the second largest pollutant industry in the world. And so we have to start thinking about recycling too, and that's dollars.
Sure. So I guess that the question I would have, or kind of the feedback, would be to kind of understand what Rightfully Sewn's specific business model is, because I don't completely get it. I think that I look at it and say, okay, everything you said, I think anyone would agree with, but it feels a little bit more advocacy and less specific to the business. So kind of
Okay,
like, what's
sure.
the first step, maybe? Because otherwise, it feels like you're hurting a lot of cats.
Hurting a lot of what?
Hurting a lot of cats in an industry, if you will. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Well, I would say just quickly, as entrepreneur to entrepreneur, the best advice that I received actually is from a stay-at-home mother, and that is to focus on what's next. So to answer your question, because the overall vision does seem overwhelming, the next step is to focus on the Seamstress Training Program. We're fundraising for it. We're raising $112,000. We're going to host it at Paseo Academy, so we're going to pay some rent to a school that needs some revenue. And we're going to use their sewing machines, and that's actually where our instructor teaches. So once we finish that certification program, that's a 2-month-long certification program with her, then we place them with sewn product manufacturers that exist here. And that will allow them, right now they can barely keep up with their own orders. But if we start feeding them skilled seamstresses, they can expand their portfolios, and then designers like Sarah Nelson can produce here instead of sending it to California, Chicago, Guatemala, etc. Next question.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
You shouldn't be nervous. You definitely, you own the presentation, so great job there.
Thank
I did have some questions along, and you're doing such an excellent job that it almost seems silly to ask these questions.
Thank you.
Because you're making an impact socially, and that is great. But you mentioned that you're going to be fundraising.
Yeah.
What is the next step where you become revenue producing
Yeah.
and self-sustaining? What does that model look like?
Yeah. Well, fashion technology is a huge part of that, and I wish the Kansas City, if there's one piece of feedback I would give to our community, is there is a lot more out there than just apps and that sort of technology. There is sewing machine technology, there is digital fabric printing technology, there are cutting machine technology. And so if we can bring those to Kansas City in our building, once we have it, that can be utilized for our designers and residents, but also we can contract out that equipment to designers in the region and the nation. Right now, our designers in Kansas City and the region send their projects and their money typically to New York City and LA. So if we could keep that here, that will fund our programs. Good question. Next. Yeah.
Wait, are we done with the expert panel? You guys done? All right. We'll open it up to you guys now. Go ahead and raise those hands up.
We'll come to
Way
you.
in the back was first.
And I know it's not a llama, but my cousin owns an alpaca farm, if
We
that
need to
helps.
talk.
Alpacas. Okay, cool. They're super soft.
See, this is just one more thing that Rightfully Sewn does, is flushing out who's here, and we connect them.
I'm coming.
Good morning. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if you've connected with The Gap and their One Stitch Closer program. They've got several connections with a similar program in Detroit.
Right.
So I've wondered if there's been any connections there. Thank you.
That's called the Empowerment Plan in Detroit.
Yes.
And I love benchmark researching, and that organization is one that we actually talk to, and we have their bylaws, et cetera. So the answer is, I'm going to go up there and tour. My husband goes up there quite a lot for his work. I'm going to tag along. But their model is replicable. It's really important. And they also have American Express, Diane von Furstenberg as sponsors. So we know who their sponsors are. We're going to go after them as well. Good question.
Right up here on the front.
Oh, yeah,
Nice presentation.
thank you.
I think you really have a comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
And the part that I want to try to find out is, it seems like you have invested a lot. I think you're generating revenue, so can you point to which parts are generating revenue currently? And have you, when do you expect to be in the black?
Uh-huh.
And you talked about doing the training, so once you do the training of these
Yeah.
people, what is the next thing?
That's I think a lot of questions. So let's see, the first one, what was the first one? Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for coming, by the way. This is my friend Stephen. He comes to these all the time. You're going to give me feedback. We are raising the $112,000 from foundations. Foundations like Sosland Foundation, Boylan Foundation, Skills Builder Foundation. For anyone who knows, foundations don't like to give money for operational, and we're fine with that. We have other revenue streams planned. So we are fundraising to start our seamstress training program. So what's your next question?
When are you going to be in the black?
We were in the black in year one because our team, can you stand up really fast, team? Thanks for coming. We are really good at collaboration, we're really good at marketing, and we're really good at special events. So we came out of the gate right away making money on events, and we did a crowdfunder, which was a really cool thing to do. I don't know if our fashion community is tired now of crowdfunders, but we were able to get in before that happened. So that's how we've been operating. Good question. Anything else? Was there anything?
What's next after the seamstress training?
The seamstress training program, well, for the last year, we've been working with realtors, developers, and community partners to pinpoint a long-term location. We're looking specifically at the Truce Corridor. There's a lot of action over there. We meet with the mayor. And then also in the West Bottoms, because there's a lot of action over there, especially around the arts. Good question. Questions?
Got one right
Yeah,
here for you.
thanks, Zach.
Oh, how will you select your seamstresses?
I'm so glad you asked. It's a 3-tier process, and we have social service agency partners. So the first thing we'll do is Sheffield Place has been with us since the beginning, informing the program. And so we will, through them, get a questionnaire to any woman who is interested in participating, and that's going to describe to them, what will you make? What's the possibility of wage? Have you sewn before? Have you done this? Have you, these are the different challenges, physically, emotionally, etc. And after they make it through that, then we pass that through. We meet with the case managers because they know the women really well, their obstacles, what motivates them, etc. And so the case managers will go then through with them. If they make it past those 2 steps, then we administer a spatial intelligence test. And what that means is just different tactile tests. And if they make it through all that, then they come to our 2-month-long certification program. And then if they make it through that, we put them into 3-month-long apprenticeships. And it's important to mention that a huge part of our success of this program is we have to pay them to learn. Because as they live in social service agencies around the city, they have to be demonstrating that they are bettering themselves, either by going to school or working. So we have to bring them to us by paying them a wage to learn. Good question.
Oh, here to your left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is great.
Thank
Building
you.
the infrastructure, looks like you've thought everything out well.
Thank you.
How do you, how do I put this? I wouldn't say the Midwest is known for too many fashion gurus. And obviously LA and New York is kind of what drives that with all the print and all the media there. How do you, that seems to be what drives the fashion industry. I don't know if you're looking to do fashion or you're just looking to make garments or both, or if that's what drives it, how do you drive that from the Midwest, I guess?
Yeah. Well, what I love so much about Kansas City right now is I feel like we've actualized. We know who we are and we know who we are not. And so we are no longer looking and lamenting and wishing that we were this or we were that. We're doing what we want right here. And so we will create a new model right here. And I would encourage you to go to Asiatica on Rainbow Road. This woman, Elizabeth Wilson, is amazing. She has created her own business. She hires women who are paid full-time, and they make garments, and they sell to the coast. But nonetheless, she has done it here. She's proved everyone wrong. Yeah.
I just felt like I needed to woo. All right, we got a question in the back here.
Okay. Thanks, Zach.
I just wanted to know where you expect to be as a company interior-wise, say in the next 3 years and 5 years.
Company in what?
Where you expect to be as a company interior-wise, the
Interior.
inside of your company, what your goals are in the next, say, 3 years,
Yeah.
and then in 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Secondly, the next question would be, where do you expect to be in 3 to 5 years in the marketplace?
Oh my gosh, I love you. We need to sit down and talk. Okay, in 3 years, I want to have 4 full-time staff members. In 5 years, I want to have 6 full-time staff members. I want us in 6 years to be in a building where we're orchestrating the Seamstress training program, and we're using that same equipment for the fashion designer residencies. Because for the foreseeable future, for the next 2 years, I would say, we're going to be in different buildings based on who our partners are.
All right, back here.
Yeah.
Good morning. Nice
Good morning.
presentation.
Thank you.
To drill down on revenue a little bit more, so it sounds like your only revenue right now is from the events. Is that correct?
And grants.
Okay, so that's
Uh-huh.
more capital versus revenue.
That's
so
right.
With the revenue, that's self-sustaining right now for salaries and expenses and everything else?
Good question. The answer is no.
Okay.
So right now, we have contractors, and I am volunteering my time.
Okay.
But I have, and I won't point him out in the room, but he's my financial advisor. And we're going to lay out a long-term path for
Okay.
financial feasibility. But we've already started the revenue streams. We're going after tax credits to bring in the equipment, which I mentioned earlier in answer to your question.
Mm-hmm.
This equipment, the contractual use of this equipment to designers in our community, in the region, and in the rest of the nation, is a huge piece of our puzzle, and we know that, and we're going to get it.
Okay, so going back, I guess, to the being in the black question then.
Yeah.
When do you expect that to happen, that you're paying for all your expenses, that you're profitable?
3 years.
Okay.
A side note to bring up here, you just said that you're donating your time at this point, right,
Yeah.
Jennifer? So you still have a full-time job, right?
I do. I work for Henry Block at his 2 foundations. He is a huge inspiration to what this is.
I just felt like that was a key piece to paint the full picture as far
Thank
as
you.
the 80, 90-hour weeks you're working as of right
Yeah,
now.
thank you.
And question in the back here.
Hi, this is wonderful.
Thank you.
I took a global fashion business class in college, so I know all about this race to the bottom and how terrible it is, and the trade-offs that have to be made. So it looks like you want to tap into the market of slow fashion.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, who are you going to be making garments for if this expands, and you know, are you looking to make designer items? I saw Anaphora on your list. I mean, are
Yeah.
you going to be, who are you going to be making garments for?
You.
Oh.
We want to be making garments for the entire Kansas City community, and I know that sounds like a, you know, just a huge market share, but essentially we want designers. Sarah Nelson is back there, who I'm wearing. We want to develop her professionally. We've sent her through Kaufman Fast Track so she can develop her business plan. We're sending her to workshops, etc., to develop her business, her following. We keep pushing her forward, and then we help get her into Anaphora and other stores like that. Rightfully Sewn will eventually have an e-commerce component. So the 5 designers that we have now and all of our future designers, we're going to help get them to market through our own website and our own marketing abilities. Good question. But a key to this is high quality and affordability, and we can make that happen if we keep it all right here.
Got time for a few more? Just toss your hands in the air and we'll come to you. One right here.
Okay,
I'm obviously not one of your target clients because I do buy my stuff at like Walmart and stuff. But
We'll get you.
yeah. But what does all of this that you do to the cost of a shirt? What does it add to the cost of a shirt or a purse or anything like that? I mean, you're doing a lot of stuff
Yeah.
to get to the point of producing something.
Yeah.
So what does that add to it at the end?
Sure. This dress, I did not bat an eye. I paid $495 for it. And I am so happy to be able to give that to Sarah because she's going to spend 80% of that back in the Kansas City community, as opposed to 30% if I would have bought a dress for a lot less at Macy's.
Let that sink in, and then more hands.
Right here, Zach, actually.
Up front, I'm coming to you.
Good morning, Ms.
Good
Jennifer.
morning. Thank
Love
you for
the
coming.
dress. Okay.
Thank you.
So my question is, I really learned a lot just through your presentation today. Awesome on the presentation
Thank
too,
you.
because for me this was an education.
Thank you.
When I go to buy a dress, I don't think
Yeah.
about the bankers and the seamstress and all of that.
Yeah.
I don't think about all of that, but I think
Right.
this is definitely something that's needed. My question is, do you have a volunteer component to what you all do? Because understanding that you're in the growth phase, you've got, a small staff at this point.
Yeah.
So do you have a volunteer component? Because there are folks out there,
Yeah.
I think, that have this skill. I mean, and some of them, they've known it for 40 years. They've never went to school for it, but they know it. Do you have a component that addresses that?
We do. Great question. So in particular, on our mailing list, on our website, we've asked everyone to designate themselves. Are you a sponsor? Are you a designer? Are you a seamstress? So right now we're sitting on a golden nugget of about 50 seamstresses who have self-identified in our community. We'll be using that list soon. But also for our seamstress training program, which is going to kick off next year, we have volunteer mentors. So 1-to-1 ratio, the class, we want to have 6 candidates in the class, and we'll have 6 volunteer mentors. So those mentors will come to every single class and supplement what Pamela is distributing, and then they will follow them to the apprenticeship and continue mentoring them. And I have a hope, and I believe the people that we choose will make a lifetime commitment to the candidate.
So in a couple seconds, somebody's going to step up and ask you what we can do as a community to help you. But
Yeah.
I want to ask a question that's kind of a step before that.
Okay.
This is the largest crowd that we've had here in a while, and definitely the best dressed. So, question for the rest of us that are wearing New Balance and
Yeah.
custom ink T-shirts.
Yeah.
What are the steps that we can take on kind of a basic level within Kansas City to
Yeah.
be better fashion citizens? Is it
Yeah.
going and finding Jordan and buying a Keith cravat, or like
Yes.
what is that we can do to make a difference on kind of a lower level?
Yeah. Stop valuing cheap, because marketing campaigns by H&M, Forever 21, and others have taught us to feel wealthy if we can afford 10 pieces for under $100. And that's just not sustainable. You saw that factory collapse. Those workers were forced to come to a building and work, because even though that the management knew that the building was compromised. So if we are more thoughtful about the shoes, tennis shoes, heels, whatever they may be, T-shirts, dresses, whatever you are comfortable in, keep wearing that. But spend a little bit more money on them, but also know that it's made somewhere where the people are cared about.
There it is. So follow up from this gentleman here.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. I'm with you on all that. Where
Yeah.
where do we start? Like, what is there a special place in Kansas? Like, should we be going to Charlie Hustle? Should we be going to Jordan's website? Like, what is there kind of a central place
Yeah.
to get our first step in the Kansas City fashion scene and
Yeah.
start spending a little bit more money for that?
Absolutely. Rightfullysown.org.
And our final question, thank you so much.
Thank
What
you.
can we as a community do to help you?
Yeah, I knew that was going to come at me, because that's kind of the sexy question for entrepreneurs. But I'm going to ask you, what starts a fire in your stomach about what I've said? and take action on it. Do you want to volunteer for us? Let us know. Speak to one of our staff members or volunteers. If you want to sign up for our e-newsletter and keep learning about how we're progressing, because we have a lot of work to do and we know that and we're not afraid. Whatever it is, please do it. Tell people about us. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Awesome. What a great crowd. Thank you all for coming out this morning. Before I jump into the announcements, I want to say good morning to Laura Artman and James Carlin and Jeff Fowler and Mark Heron and Jennifer Hoyt. These are all people who have downloaded the new 1 Million Cups app and checked in this morning. So in case you did not hear this announcement earlier, we have a new app and we want you to use it. It's really awesome. So go to wherever you download apps and please download the new 1 Million Cups app. And oh, by the way, we are the first program to have it here in Kansas City, so don't share it on social media yet. This is our soft launch. We want to see how it goes. It'll give you the opportunity to provide feedback to the presenters, and I think you're going to have a lot of great things to say. So announcement time. Head to the back, grab this announcement sheet. A lot of great stuff on the back. Jordan would like to tell us a little bit more about most likely to succeed.
Thanks, Kyle. Good morning, my name is Jordan, and on behalf of SEED, I want to invite you all tomorrow night. We're having a free documentary screening at the Sprint Accelerator. The announcement we have here is in the middle. This documentary addresses the issue that 53% of recent college grads are underemployed or unemployed, and there are 5.5 million jobs available. So come be inspired. Join in on the conversation. We're going to have snacks and drinks, and we will have a panelist of Kansas City education leaders to lead us in a conversation immediately following the screening. So hope to see you there. Thanks.
Yeah. And let's have a really warm welcome for Ben Edwards with SWAPA.
Good? I don't think the clicker's working.
Try it now.
Okay, I'll give that a shot. Can everybody hear me? All right. Good morning. I'm Ben Edwards. I am the founder and CEO of SWAPA. Now, before we get into what SWAPA is, I want to talk a little bit about where SWAPA came from. To do that, we've got to rewind back to 2010, which was relatively early in the smartphone era. My background's in software development, and at that time, I wanted to get into doing Android apps. To do this, I needed a cache of various devices for development and testing purposes. To buy them new was too expensive, several $100s a pop. So I knew I could save some money buying used. So that's what I did using the services that were available at the time, which were primarily eBay and Craigslist. You guys might have heard of them. Now, unfortunately, I had tons of problems buying used smartphones from these services, too many to detail in 6 minutes. But I did have one particular story I wanted to share. I was going to meet a stranger in a dark parking lot late at night with a pocket full of cash, because that's how you Craigslist. And I was yeah. So what could go wrong? I was buying a used Motorola Droid, and I got to handle the device, and everything seemed fine. It seemed to work. So I gave the seller a couple $100 cash, and we left at the same time. The seller and I ended up at the same stoplight together a block away, and I see them looking over at me nervously, and they just couldn't take it anymore. They peel out and run through 2 red lights to speed onto the highway and escape into the night, and I'm stuck sitting there with a stupid look on my face, knowing I just got burned. Sure enough, when I get home and try to activate the smartphone I just bought, Verizon tells me it's been blacklisted as lost or stolen, and I learned an expensive lesson that day, that you never buy a used smartphone with cash. More importantly, though, the idea for SWAPA was born soon after. So what is SWAPA? SWAPA is a user-to-user marketplace for buying and selling newish mobile devices. That's a bit of a mouthful, but we'll break it down. User-to-user marketplace means that we help connect our users directly as buyers and sellers to work with each other. SWAPA is not a middleman to the transaction. We're not a storefront. We are sale facilitators. I think of us as chaperones to helping them safely buy and sell with each other. The mobile devices part is exactly what you'd expect. Smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, that sort of thing. But the newish part is really important because on SWAPA we have a strict no junk devices policy in our marketplace. That means if your phone's been blacklisted or run over by something or dropped in the toilet, you can't sell it on SWAPA. eBay will happily host a sale of your toilet phone though. So how does SWAPA work? Well, much like eBay, we allow users to create a listing, describe what they're going to sell, upload photos, and then get paid directly via PayPal. But that's about where the similarities end. The first big difference with SWAPA is we're focused just on mobile devices. And that really simplifies and streamlines the buying and selling processes. It's a lot easier to find what you're looking for when you can start with a catalog of devices, for instance. Next big difference is SWAPA is human-powered. We have a team of mobile enthusiasts and mobile device experts that actively engage our user base from the pre-listing all the way through the post-sale process to help things go smooth, and they help moderate the site. They perform the very important function of having to review and approve every listing that gets posted for sale on SWAPA. This goes a long way to preventing fraud and other potential problems. As part of that review process, we do something very unique. If you post a smartphone for sale on SWAPA, we require the seller to provide the serial number or ESN for that device being sold. We can then check that number using processes and tools we've developed that allow us to detect if the device has been blacklisted, if it's lost or stolen, if it's a cloned device, if it's outstanding finance, that sort of thing. We can basically try to detect just about any problem that might trip up a new buyer at the activation step. And so we're the only marketplace that does this, and it goes, again, a long way in proactively preventing bad sales on the road. So what about the business of SWAPA? We collect revenue as a flat $10 sale fee when a listing sells. So even though this fee is small, SWAPA is still profitable. A big reason why is because we have very low overhead. We don't have to pay for a warehouse full of devices. Our sellers provide our inventory for us. We also don't have to pay for offices because SWAPA is a 100% distributed team. I was born in Kansas City here. This is where I work and live, and we have a small core team here, but the majority of our employees are spread out all over the world, actually. So we have a small team, but small but mighty, we like to say, which kind of brings us to our standing in the competitive landscape. We've already talked about like eBay and Craigslist, kind of the Goliaths of this market. But we also deal with another class of competitors we call the buyback companies. And Gazelle is a very well-funded example of this. You might have even seen their commercials on TV. What the buyback companies want to do is buy your old phone from you on the cheap, usually paying about half of what it's worth, and then they want to turn around and sell it for full price. Now, we think this sucks because at SWAPA, we know the best way to get a good deal and to get the most value for your phone is to work directly with another user. And so our modest mission is to make that not only possible, but safe and simple. And we think we do a pretty good job, but I want to hear what you guys think. So thank you very much for the time. I think we can get slides going.
Ben, first of all, thank you from someone who's never paid retail for a phone.
Yeah, so, right on.
Yeah, I'm using a 5 here that I got for free, so at some point I might upgrade. He's laughing because he knows where I got it. Yeah, so my question is, and this is an industry that I know just kind of ancillary a little bit about. But there is kind of the growing industry of the insurance companies when it comes to the cell phones.
Okay.
Is there any add-on opportunities or the long-term vision? Does it include maybe working with them so that way the consumer can buy, since you are screening the phone already,
Right.
an added warranty at the time of purchase to help them kind of make sure that they're getting a high-quality phone as well, and also an extra
Right.
revenue stream for you?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that's a possibility. And we've had users ask about this before, and it's something we've looked into. I want to say like Square Trade or something is one of the companies that do this. And I know at one point they worked with eBay. I thought they had stopped. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's something we definitely consider is adding, basically at the time of purchase or soon after, allowing the user to, basically add on an insurance policy based on the fact that they've got a verified purchase. Yeah, I think
Great,
it's
and
a
then
good idea.
kind of a follow-up question. I was on the website yesterday, and to me, it was a very user-friendly for purchasing and finding pricing very quickly. But what I didn't get, and what you gave us today, and maybe it's because I was doing it while I was on the phone, on hold with somebody, but does it tell the story that you guys are verifying and checking more so than your competitors? So as a consumer, I know that I'm getting a high quality product, but also one that's not stolen, which is just as important to me.
Right. No, well, you tell me. It sounds like maybe we don't do a good enough job telling that story. But yeah, maybe we need to do a better job highlighting that.
Is that on the front page, and maybe I just missed it?
No, I don't think it's on the front page. So maybe it should be. Thanks.
I think it's very interesting. You're building a marketplace, obviously, and it seems like you guys are relatively new to it. I'm assuming that because you have the developer background, you guys kind of built it within your team. I want to kind of talk, I guess, a little bit more about like the marketing side of acquisition, because within a niche market even, you have the differentiation of backing up and doing the checks and making sure you've done more due diligence to make sure that the consumer doesn't get ripped off, which is very, very great. I think it is part of the selling story. But what does your acquisition strategy look like, I guess, and then what is the cost of that? I mean, are you really looking at putting this in front of a lot of markets internationally, and it's kind of a race to get more people on the platform to take them off of the habit of exchanging phones on Craigslist or eBay or other places?
Acquisition strategy part is hard because we basically, like you said, collect a $10 fee, and so it makes it really hard to try to buy advertising or something to compete against other people basically, selling phones that will, on new retail stuff, you're going to collect much more. If you're a carrier selling a phone, for instance, you don't really care about selling the phone. You're trying to get a 2-year contract or something along those lines. And so it's really, really hard or nearly impossible for us to pay for advertising. So our acquisition strategy for a long time has always just been, to try to provide a good user experience, and word of mouth is basically how we've grown for several years. We tried to, in the beginning, again just because my background and stuff, I wanted to basically appeal to device enthusiasts, and there's a lot of people out there like that who, amazingly, they'll cycle through a new phone a month. All the new ones that are coming out, they like to try them all, so they're buying and selling constantly. Developers will do a lot of the same thing. They need multiple devices at a time for testing, apps they're working on, stuff like that. So that's who we've always tried to initially appeal to. As we grow and are trying to become more mainstream, we're trying to appeal to audiences that will buy more than one device for different reasons. For instance, a mom who's going to get herself an iPhone and tablets for the kids or something like that. I've got a household like that, so it's not just moms, obviously, but but try to appeal to people that basically want more devices and use them more often, because we are kind of facing a challenge of people are keeping their cell phones longer and stuff like that, and so I guess the acquisition is really just the people we go after, and we have to do it kind of more grassroots and more organically, and so we're trying to do that. It's tough.
What does eBay typically charge if someone is selling? And I probably should know. I just don't utilize it. But what are your competitors charging? And is $10 relative, or is it well below what the marketplace?
It's well below what the average price of eBay is, typically around 10%, or maybe like slightly below that, depending on if you're a power seller and some other stuff like that. But for like the average price of a used phone, it's typically about $10 compared to about $30.
Okay.
So it's significant. It's a big deal. It's a big reason why people try us out.
So then I challenge you, when are you going to raise your price? Because there's always, if you're not,
yeah,
you have
maybe
to push
never.
it. Maybe never.
Yeah, part of the reason being we're profitable on $10. And part of the reason is when we've been written up in, New York Times or something like that, that's something that's almost always mentioned. And that's something that new users tell us brought us there, was just this idea of, a flat sale fee. And to me, that's important. It just kind of goes along with our overall strategy of being transparent and being simple. The longer you're around and the more you try to grow, the temptation is to always get more complicated and get, just add more things to it and stuff like that. It's just, and we always are just trying really hard to say, no, how can we simplify this? And flat fee is one way to do that.
Yeah, and I'll let the room ask some questions, but I would say 15 is also a simple number that allows you some of that acquisition that you're not currently doing. So I would just challenge you to think about that in the future.
Okay, yeah, sure, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open it up to the audience. Throw up your hand, and Zach and I will grab you.
Got a question over here.
Yeah, it seems like your core sort of competitive advantage is the ESN lookup. Have you thought about licensing that out to the marketplaces that exist and thereby eliminating that high cost of acquisition?
Yeah. We do some monetization of the ESN check at this point, and we're definitely looking to do more. And I don't think it would be licensing that out to where so much as providing APIs to use the technology and stuff like that. And we've seen a lot of interest in that. That's something we're doing just a little bit now, and we'll be doing a lot more of.
Yeah, I meant more approaching eBay, so sort of becoming the Carfax for phones, I guess.
I got you. Well, we wouldn't want to approach eBay with it because it's definitely a competitive advantage for us. And we've invested a lot in it. It's definitely something that's helped us, get off the ground and stay specialized there. So.
Cool, thanks.
Another question on your right here, Ben.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the verifying process. Do they send that to you, or is that something you can do remotely? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's just when they post like a listing for the phone, we know exactly what model and stuff it's supposed to be based on, the category they selected to post it in, and then we collect that just ESN digitally, as part of the form they're filling out to describe what they're doing. And so we can verify that remotely and make sure it matches up against the type of phone they're trying to sell, that sort of thing. We've got a lot of other checks in place too. We got some a very low-tech practice of where we have the sellers upload what's called a verification photo, which we give them a unique code that they've got to take a picture of next to their physical device that just basically proves they have what they're trying to sell. It's very low-tech but very effective anti-fraud measure we use along with the ESN checks. So. Yeah.
Hi. My question is, what's your relationship with the cell phone carriers? Are you thinking of them as competitors, channel partners? How do you work with them?
I don't think we don't really look at the carriers as competitors. We want to work more closely with them to, help enable better verification and stuff like that. As far as phones being able to change hands and avoid problems going to a new account. There's a lot of things the carriers are doing in terms of like financing plans and stuff like that when they're selling phones, which can potentially trip up a new owner of an old phone. And so we'd like to work more closely with them. They do kind of compete with us in the fact that carriers, all their retail locations will do buyback, to where, hey, we're selling a new phone and we'll give you a few bucks for your old phone as, typically as like account credit or something like that. And so they're acquiring the used phones that we'd rather see sold on Swappa. And so in that sense, they're kind of competing with the supply part. But we don't look at it as competitors because the carriers want to sell plans. They want the users to use their network and pay monthly bills. They sell devices out of necessity, not because that's their, it's not their cheese.
But could there be channel partners like help you with your acquisitions? Because maybe they don't want to be in that business. If they really want to sell just the plans, maybe you can help them out and by selling partnerships.
Yes, to an extent. We've had some talks with carriers that basically more or less want to be able to, tell their users to, that it's okay to use Swappa, that sort of thing. That because again, they're not so interested in making sure they sell new phones as much as making sure they've got users that have phones they can use on their network.
Another question for you right in the front.
Hi, Ben. Steve Stryker. Couple things. First of all, I've been looking forward to 6 or 8 months that you'd present here at Million Cups. I'm glad that you did. Thank you very much.
I knew you would have a question.
I did. I do. Okay, a couple things. One, just on an idea, there's something called the Competitive Carrier Association. You should get to know those guys if you don't know them already in Washington, because they deal with, there's the 4 major carriers, but there's about 250 other carriers in the United States. A lot of rural telephone companies operate cellular licensees. So I'll talk to you later about that.
Yeah,
I've got some ideas for you on that. But the FCC, last 18 months, there's been a dramatic change in the mobile device marketplace. The FCC policy on unlocking devices. Carriers didn't want to unlock the devices. FCC put a gun to their head, said you got to unlock them. However, with the guns at their head, there's a little bit of a Mexican standoff because they haven't really made it that much easier to unlock the devices.
Right.
Are you actually in the middle when you do the ESN check facilitating unlocking devices? Are you just leaving it to the 2 co-parties in the transaction?
Yeah, it doesn't really, our checking and stuff doesn't really have anything to do with the unlocking. We wish we could make it easier for them to unlock because the more users can, just switch between phones and carriers and all that stuff, the more fluid all that stuff is, I think the easier it is for us and the industry in general. But there's a lot of interest in unlocking devices, but a lot of it is so they can take things overseas and stuff like that, because that's where a lot of the used device inventory ends up. And so I wish we could do more with unlocking, help make it easier to do, but we just don't really do much with the unlocking at this point.
Question over to your right, behind the TV.
Yeah, hey, I think you have a really great business idea, and I used to work for Sprint, and we used to get calls all the time about this ESN swaps and verifying that ESN number. But have you ever thought about partnering with like the local pawn shops and the local cellular stores that run into that issue? Because I know when I used to work for Sprint, I used to get calls and they say, I bought it from a pawn shop, you should put this on my account. And I think that might be a service to them. I don't know if you thought about that, but I just wanted to suggest that.
No, that's a good idea. We haven't really thought about partnering with the pawn shops, but we do have our ESN check tool. We do make it publicly available. It's kind of a public service where we have like a limited number of checks you can run per day. And we know that pawn shops and buyback companies and repair shops, and we know all sorts of people in the industry are taking advantage of it. Right. Well, and then so that public ESN check has actually been an important part of our user acquisition in the past several years. So.
Another question for you against the wall.
Yes.
Over here.
I'm just curious what your fallout rate is when you do those ESN checks, and do you expect that fallout rate to expand as you expand your addressable market, and what will that do to your margins?
I got you. I'm not sure what you mean by fallout rates.
How many phones do you reject?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. As far as because we publicly expose the ESN check, we run way more checks than we do have listings on the site. Our users run way more checks. I'm not sure of the percentage of phones which are actually blacklisted. As far as people who try to create listings and that we have to reject because of this, a lot of them won't even try to create listings because they can check it ahead of time using the same tool or similar tools that we do. They see that it's blacklisted, they don't even bother. But still, amazingly, we do every day reject, I'm not sure how many, but probably over 100 listings for things like, I hope this has been reported lost or stolen, or this is a clone device. That's something we see with a lot of Samsung devices, for instance. We reject a lot of listings for a whole lot of reasons every day. So a lot of failed sales we keep from happening.
So I don't recognize any of the acronyms that we're using right now. I'm an incredibly ignorant phone buyer. I just go into the Sprint store and they tell me how much the iPhone costs that day and I buy it.
Right.
So why should I buy my next phone on Swappa instead of the Sprint store?
It's if you want to save money. If you're buying if you're somebody who waits in line for the next iPhone, you're probably not going to buy from Swappa, and that's fine. If you do that, you can still sell your old iPhone on Swappa and make a bunch of money there. But why would you? Yeah, the main reason that you'd buy from Swappa as opposed to new retail is to save money. You'll save a bunch of money doing that. So.
Another question for you way in the back here, Ben.
Yeah, I got you.
Xin Xiao here. So quick question. Have you considered working with device manufacturer, for example, Samsung, Apple? The reason for that is they seem to have the incentive to work with you so that, because all they want is sell more devices. And the new generation devices come out, used to be once a year. Now it's about every 6 months. So it seems they will be incentived to work with you so that cycle through quickly. The users will get new devices quicker. So just quick question, if you have considered work with Samsung, Apple.
To an extent, we haven't seen much interest from the manufacturers, and I would suspect it's just because they're much more worried about the selling of new phones. You know, they're like you said, they're constantly coming out, especially like Samsung, which you mentioned. I mean, they just have such a wide array of devices that they're constantly pushing out, and so the more. I think they're kind of struggling with always trying to, or all the manufacturers are struggling with trying to make new features which necessitate having to buy the new phones they're always coming out with. And the fact that you can get, just their last generation device, which is still, very capable for, half the price or sometimes less. I think I'm not sure they love the idea of Swappa as much, or we certainly haven't seen any interest in them trying to work with us. So we certainly would, yeah.
Question up front.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about it's a public service to check, like I could get on there and check the EIN before I sell my phone or before I purchased another phone through another vendor.
Right.
You said there's a limit per how many you can do a day. Have you thought about tapping onto like the pawn shops and different things like that are selling phones? Providing a subscription to those people that can have unlimited amount of searches
we sell
to help generate more revenue for you?
Yeah, we allow you to purchase credits to do more checks, and a lot of people take advantage of that. And we're going to do more in terms of basically for pay capabilities and using that check. And so it's a good
Okay,
idea.
Ben. Sorry, Kyle. I've got another question way back here.
I got you.
Might not, okay, cool. We're good.
All right, so I just did a bunch of math real quick. So I've had 8 insurance claims in the last 7 years. So I added up all the premiums and all the deductibles and figured, okay, this might be better for me if I can sell my old phone, because that's the mistake I've always made is I've just sent the old one back. So if I can get the new one for $350 and sell mine for $150, that's cheaper than carrying that insurance. The biggest hang up I'd have is speed, because when I call that insurance claim in, I get my next phone tomorrow. Hopefully, if they have it in stock. So how fast could I get it? I looked on your site, and the phone I currently have, there's one available in North Wales, Pennsylvania. How fast would I be able to get that phone in my hands?
If you paid for it today, we require our sellers to ship within two business days. So they should have it shipped out by the end of the week, and so it's just how long it takes with shipping. So less than a week typically. You can you can't pay for it on the site. That would be something to where you'd buy it and then you'd check with the seller ahead of time. Can you ship this overnight? They'd either add a little bit more onto the price, or you could just pay them separately again, like via PayPal. We make it easy to submit like an extra payment to them, so you could pay for overnight. So they could certainly do that, and that happens regularly. So the sellers are typically more than willing to accommodate that to make it quick.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, we've got one final question.
Okay.
What can we as a community do to help Swappa?
Oh, I got you. We had a slide specifically for this. Okay, well, yeah, we had lots of slides for all of these things. They were so wonderful. What can we do? Let's see, how many people in this room have a smartphone? Raise your hand. Every single person. How many of you have used Swappa before?
We got one.
I see one hand. That is, oh my God. Like, so that is what you can do.
Get this girl a t-shirt.
That is. Tell me how you found out about Swappa.
So unfortunately, I had a relationship with the person behind the counter. She's like, don't waste your money on me to this repair. This is where I buy my funds.
Right on.
This is legitimate. So my thought is, you know, there's a lot of ways to market your concept without necessarily having to spend a lot of money. I'm a small business consultant. If you'd like to talk to me later, maybe we can.
All right, sounds good. Find me afterwards. Thank you. Okay, and so yeah, doing that. Everybody has a smartphone. Almost nobody raised their hand as using Swappa before. So what the community can do for us is use Swappa. Right? Your phone has value. Your old phone has value. So you know, buy a new phone on Swappa. Next time you're looking to upgrade, or again, if you're trying to get the latest and greatest, then sell your old phone on Swappa, and just help us spread the word. We've been around for a while now, honestly, and we're here in Kansas City, and so we just need help raising awareness and that sort of thing. So,
Great
hopefully this
job.
helps.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Ben and Jennifer. Thank you both for coming. You did a fantastic job. Quick update. We have another event in this room starting at 10:30, so we all need to book it out of here by 10:15. Both Jennifer and Ben will be available for questions in that time. Next week, we have two presenters. We're going to have Val Mayest here, and they're going to be unrolling a new business model. So Val Mayest 2.0 should be really exciting. And we're also going to have giving leads. So hope to see you all next Wednesday. Thanks.